All right, Art Escapes. Everybody needs an escape once in a while. This is from this book, Art Escapes, Hidden Art Experiences Outside the Museum. Okay, so this is by DAST Art Team, and it's in the deserts of Egypt, and it was created in 1997. It's 25 acres, and you can see that they bore some holes into the desert and then took the sand and made this this whole large installation. And this is an example of land art. Land art was sort of born in the 1960s. And it's all about we don't want anything to be in a gallery. Don't want it to be bought and sold. We want to go out into the land and make art. So there you go. That's kind of a short summary of land art. And then here's another, this is a better view of what kind of happened in the making of it. Okay, then you've got Jean Duvivet, and this is in celebration of all of his work here. And this is in France, so let's go look at it a little bit closer inside, I think, yes. And there are going to be many examples of artists sort of promoting their work through these huge escape worlds, especially the outsider artists who we'll get to a little bit later today. Okay, let's keep going. There's a little bit more of him here. That would be an interesting meeting room. And then here's some more of his sculptures inside the complex. Okay. And then this is a Cuban artist. This is Jose Fuster's Fusterlandia, and it includes 25 houses, and he's still working on it. It was created in 1994, but it's 1994 to the present, so to speak. And you see this quite a bit. Artists, oftentimes who aren't trained, that would be an outsider artist, formerly in art, who have this particular aesthetic, and they just keep building and building and building throughout a neighborhood. And I think that would be really interesting to see this in Havana. Okay, there we go. A little bit more of Fuster's work. I like that one quite a bit. Oftentimes, it's cheap materials that are used for these large, complex worlds that they create. And usually they invite the public to go through it. Okay, this is Saul LeWitt, who was a minimalist artist, and he took over a church in Spoleto, Italy, and made it his own, which I'm sure some purists would have an issue with, which, I can see their point, but it is an interesting, I think, project for sure. And this was started and finished in 1999. And here's another view of the chapel. And then I think we're going to go inside. Yes. All right. That's kind of a fun one. And then I really was fascinated by this one. This is Katie Patterson and Zeller and Moy's Hollow from Bristol, United Kingdom. It has samples of wood from 10,000 different trees. So let's go inside and look at it. Wow. I wonder if they traveled a lot to get these samples. I would suspect they did. That's beautiful. Okay. And then here's looking up through the ceiling. Okay, the next one is kind of complicated, guys. This is numerical data is by no means a measure of an artwork, though Soddy's minimalist Atlantis is a pleasing intertwining of art and mathematics. Each of the 64 2-square-foot cubes comprise of 1,600 bricks, timbers. It's a handmade by Soddy and his team of local craftsmen in the traditional rustic kiln and wood of Mexico. Coconut shells and jacaranda seeds. There are a total of 102,400 terracotta-hued pieces, fired in 40 batches over nearly 1,000 hours and arranged in a grid formation. So a lot of time and energy went into this particular artiscape. You wouldn't necessarily know it. Okay, Louise Bourgeois and Peter Zumthor made a Stelneset Memorial in Norway in 2006 to 2011, and it commemorates the trial and execution in 1621 of 91 people for witchcraft, 77 women and 14 men. I really, really enjoyed this particular work. So you go up through the causeway there, and inside it's talking about the actual horrendous piece of history. And here's outside it. Yeah, okay. Yep. Okay. Okay, this is Ensemble Studios' Inverted Portal, and it's in Montana, Fishtail, Montana. It opened in 2016, and this is another example of land art where you can't really take this and put it in a gallery and try and sell it to somebody. So it works pretty well, actually. Okay. Let's even a better look at it, I think. Okay, and then Richard Serra, an American minimalist artist, was asked to create some works for an island off the coast of Iceland, and this is called Standing Stones Afengar. This brings into question, like, why would they invite an American artist? Why didn't they have an Icelandic artist? But, there you go. Serra is, hugely famous, so that's probably part of it. Okay, and then they plopped down a Prada store in Marfa, Texas in 2005. This is Elm Green and Drag Sets work in Marfa. And I don't think you can buy anything inside. I think it's just a kind of a facade of a Prada store, which is humorous in a way because in this small town in Texas, I suspect most people don't buy Prada products. Okay, that's good. And then this is a causeway that goes to an island, and then you go up it, and you go into this really industrialized sort of background. And so this is kind of us looking at it a little bit backwards, and then I'll show you where it goes to the island. Yeah, and then let's see, where was the date on this one? 1980 in Paris, France. It's called Axe Major. Okay, and then this is the Golden Spiral by Voth. It's a celestial stairway at the city of Orion in Morocco in the desert from 1980 to 2003. And then this is, I think it's continuing on with that theme. Yeah, it is, definitely. And then this is Nancy Holt's Sun Tunnels from the Great Basin Desert in Utah in 1976. Another minimalist artist. So the sun interacts with the sculpture on a daily basis. This is typical of land art for sure. Okay, and then Axis, and I just read in the New York Times, I think I'm right, I think this is just being completed. This is Charles Ross's Star Axis, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 1971 to present, soon to be completed. Okay. And then this is Nikki St. Vale, that's how you pronounce it. This is the Three Graces, very colorful sculptures. This is what she's known for the most. She did some other things early in her career, but I've come across these in Southern California quite a bit, actually, and they're made from broken tesserae that she puts together to form her sculptures, or at least the decorative part of them. And then this is her partner, her superstar art couple partner, Tang, not Tang Yi. Sorry, get that wrong. One second. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tingley. Sorry. And he makes self-destructive sculptures that everybody's always interested in. And they got together and decided to create an art escape like this one. So this is the Cyclops in France, 1969 to 1991. And I think I've got some more of this incredible in the forest. Yeah. Looking at these different structures. It's fascinating. Okay, and then inside you'd see more of the examples of Tingley's work. Okay, that one's an interesting one. I'd love to go to that one at some point. And then here's more of Nikki St. Vale's work that's inside these different structures. It's just not Tingley. She's very much involved in the making of this huge project. Okay, now we're going to go to India. This is very famous. This is the Rock Garden by Nek Chand, and it's in Changarth, India. And it wasn't discovered for 18 years. Wow. And it was created between 1957 and 1975. I think he was afraid that people would destroy it, so he kind of was doing it in secret, I think, if I remember right from the book. There's some monkeys and shards of pottery there are used constantly. And I thought this was a beautiful photograph of when you're inside the actual parkway, so to speak. Okay, so that's in India. Now let's go to, this one more from him. Sorry. Okay, now let's go to France. And this is Ferdinand Cheval's Ideal Palace, 1879 to 1912, obviously influenced by Southeast Asian and also just South Asia designs, architectural designs. And here's a look at some of the insides of it, which are pretty striking, actually. Okay, and then this might have been an influence on, in a way, been an influence on Max Ernst. This is 1932, The Innocent Eye. Max Ernst was a Dadaist. He starts off as a Dadaist from Germany, and then he becomes a surrealist, and he was very interested in organic shapes and designs, and you could see where he might be influenced by some of the things that we've looked at already today. And then this is the Rothko Chapel. It has 6 paintings by Mark Rothko inside it. It's in Houston, Texas, and some people react very emotionally when they're in the Rothko the Rothko Chapel. I've never been in, and then the work next to it is Barnett Newman's Broken Obelisk, and that's obviously another example of minimalism. So minimalism has this sort of deadpan industrial look to it. There's sometimes repetition. We'll see that later with Donald Judd. And what else? So that's the Rothko Chapel with Barnett Newman's work outside it. Okay, now let's go to William. Here's inside the Rothko Chapel. Now let's take a leap backwards to 1859 to William Morris's Red House. He was the leader of the arts and crafts movement, which was a late Victorian era design philosophy and social movement in England around the 1860s that championed traditional and handmade objects as a reaction against the dehumanizing effects of industrialization and mass production. So the arts and crafts people and the Art Nouveau people and Art Deco all were afraid that because of an industrialization of the world that people would start to lack an interest in handmade, unusual objects. And so that's something that William Morris is really promoting in his Red House, which is a very interesting place. Okay, so that's one of the doorways. Another stairway. Okay. And then here you kind of see an eclectic sort of collection here of art with what he's famous for, of course, his wallpapers, his unusual furniture designs, all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's keep going. Yep, some more of William Morris's work. Beautiful stuff. Okay, this is TeamLab Planet's Tokyo website, 2018, which would offer a very interesting digital escape, that's for sure. And then let's go to one of the most famous American outsider artists, and that would be Howard Finster, who, here's some more of that. Sorry, here's some more of that TeamLab Planet's Tokyo website. We're going to maybe go to that website, yeah. Okay, so then, but before that, we're going to look at Floyd Elsinga's Unsip the Earth and Universal Stopper. So these are probably highly influenced by pop art, particularly with Claes Oldenburg, who we know very, very well, of course. And so you take common objects out of culture and make them bigger or do something with them and make them into high art. So taking lowbrow art and making it high art is kind of the focus of pop art. I like this one a lot. You could see Claes Oldenburg and his wife doing something with this, but it's actually a work by Floyd Elsinga. And it's in Ontario, Canada. All right, so then here is an actual work by Oldenburg and Van Bruggen. It's a gardening tool here, all in a beautiful blue. Okay, and then this one really was striking to me. This is in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, 2020. It's called The Seed, and it's a moving object. It twirls, and it also has different things inside it and outside it. So it's a really interesting staging of performance art, along with it being sculptural, and I guess we could define it in other ways as well. So maybe this will show, yeah, here we go with the text. The text, and then we also have some great staging here that's going on inside the seed, and it's all sort of on the edge of what looks to be development, an art development in the United Arab Emirates. Okay. And then here's Howard Finster's work. Okay, so Finster was he was both a artist and a minister, very, very famous in Georgia, and created this place called Paradise Garden, which reminds me a lot of what we looked at before from the Cuban artist. And what you're looking for with regards to an outsider artist, you're looking for an unusual aesthetic because they're not influenced by anybody else because they didn't have formal training in art. So you're looking for something very unique, and oftentimes, again, it's cheap materials that are used. And then this is a continuation of his Paradise Garden. Okay. Here's some more of it. Oh, that's Sully the dog barking. All right, Sully. Stop barking, Sully. Okay, so here's some more Howard Finster things. Shh. Shh. Okay, so Howard Finster became famous among the Georgian band REM, which is one of my favorite bands. And so there's 2 albums actually that he did the cover of. Yeah, so the second one is for Talking Heads, and it's one of their more famous albums. And it's called Little Creatures 1985. The other one was REM's Reckoning 1984. So he really kind of had a breakout interest in him in the 80s, I would say. And yeah, there's other examples of Howard Finster's work being used in common cultural objects, not just album covers, but other things as well. All right, so now this is a lot of fun. So this is a silo trail in Australia where these large grain silos are painted. And this one is Guido van Helten's Brim Silo. And I'm a big fan of this sort of stuff because I think silos should be made beautiful. Okay, and then here's some repetition that we were talking about earlier. This is Donald Judd's work, which is in Marfa, Texas. He took over an abandoned Air Force base and just put all of his art in the buildings and outside the buildings. If you've become a huge minimalist fan, you have to take a trip down to Texas to see it. It's sort of the highlight of, I think, it's one of the highlights in the United States of land art being shown. All right. And then this is Robert Smithson's, it's not Spiral Jetty, which you would think it would be. It's actually Amarillo Ramp that is in Amarillo, Texas, and it's part of the Tecovas Lake. And Smithson is actually the #1 most well-known land artist. And Spiral Jetty, which is in Utah, is very similar to this work, and it's made with large machines, and it's really eye-opening, this work and the other work I was just talking about. And you can't get it into a gallery, that's for sure. And so here's another look at it. And I thought this was kind of interesting. So this is called The Future Is Now, and it's in Saudi Arabia. It's kind of haunting to me. It was Spielberg-esque, maybe. And this is was completed, we think, around 2020. And it's by Gisela Colon. All right. Now we're going to go to Japan, and we're going to see the Toshima Art Museum in the Toshima Island of Japan, and this was made in 2011. And one of the things about museum architecture is you don't want the architecture to overwhelm the pieces that are in the museum, but I think we are. I think that's exactly what's happening with this particular museum. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And maybe it's just me thinking that the architecture is pretty overwhelming. And here's a view of it from a little bit afar and outside. You'd have to take a major trip to go see this particular place. And then a little bit more inside. Interior. You can see minimalist pieces being really well done here, displayed really well. And then here's Kusama's work. This is Yellow Pumpkin. And then, of course, we got to have maybe a red pumpkin too. I think these two are great art escapes by Kusama. And these are both on another island in Japan. Okay, and then let's look at, we have 2 more to go. So let's look at, this is the Chapel des Rosiers by Henri Matisse. And he did it after World War II, 1947 to 1951. And yeah, so the whole chapel itself is done with Matisse's aesthetic, which I think would be really wonderful to go into a chapel like that. And we see this in art history a little bit, where contemporary artists of the 20th century are asked to create works for a religious setting, and this is one of the more well-known ones. Okay, and then I think we have one more. Yeah, the chapel itself. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to go to church with the artistry of a particular artist that's emphasized. Okay, and then last but not least, in Spain, oops, here's the vestments that Matisse also designed. Wow, those are something else. Okay, so off the coast of Spain is Jason de Carrez Taylor's Museo Atlantico. And it's basically an underwater museum. So I guess you'd have to have a scuba diving license to go see it, or I guess you could maybe snorkel too. But it's become really well known as of late. It was, I don't know, it was created, finished in 2006. Let's look at some more of examples of this underwater museum. Underwater escape, actually. Okay. There we have some more. I'd love to go see it, personally.